Good morning. I'm Joanne Wong, Director of Corporate Services at the Greater New England Minority Supplier Development Council. Thank you so much for taking the time today to participate in today's Unlocking Business Opportunities with the BPDA, Boston Planning and Development Agency. So today we have the team from BPDA who will provide an overview of their procurement process and supplier diversity program, and just a few housekeeping items before we go ahead and get started. We are recording this session. The presentation will be shared at the conclusion of the event. And we are going to ask that everyone use the raise hand function and ask questions directly to our panelists. If you are unable to, you can go ahead and use the Q&A box, but we'd love to have questions asked directly. And with that, I will turn it over to Robert Springer, Vendor and Supplier Diversity Specialist in the Procurement Group.
All right. Thank you very much, Joanne. Next slide, please. So this is the agenda for our presentation. It's giving you a basic overview of the Boston Planning and Development Agency. We're then going to talk about our sister agency, the Boston Local Development Corporation, which provides financing for Boston-based businesses. We're then going into specific procurement opportunities for vendors that are available with the BPDA. We are also talking after that about real estate development opportunities, because that's a huge part of what the agency does. It oversees properties and puts them back out there to benefit the public. And lastly, we're going through and we're going to address some potential employment opportunities with the agency. Next slide. Next slide. So joining me today will be Laura Melli, the Deputy Director for Real Estate Administration, Dolores Dominguez-Fazio, Senior Project Manager, Capital Construction, Jonathan Short, Senior Real Estate Development Officer, and in lieu of Mike Kerr is Joseph Lee in our Human Resources Group. And from the Boston Local Development Corporation, we're joined by Bill Nickerson and Gisela Soriano. Next slide. Next slide. So one question is, who is the BPDA? The BPDA plans and guides inclusive growth in our city, creating opportunities for everyone to live, work, and connect. One thing that it's important to note is the BPDA is a distinct entity from the city of Boston. So when it comes to our procurement group, we're separate from the city and we have our own spend. As this slide notes, over the last 5 years, the agency has spent approximately $10 million in publicly procured services. Most of those dollars are spent by the planning, real estate, and IT groups. Next slide. And now I'll be handing off to Bill Nickerson, and he'll provide you with more information about the Boston Local Development Corporation.
Thank you, Robert, and good morning, everybody. Thank you for signing on to this to get a little information about our programs. I'm going to give a quick overview of our small business fund. Of course, whenever the conversation about increasing these contracting and procurement opportunities comes up, and the various barriers that need to be torn down, financing is always a big question. So hopefully we're available to provide support through our small business fund in that realm. Next slide, please. The program itself is actually a 501c3 that's staffed by Gisela and I, who are both employees of the BPDA. But there's an independent board of trustees that oversees the organization and holds the money, for lack of a better word, that's in there. We make loans up to $250,000. In the case of a manufacturer, $150,000 generically for Boston small businesses. Our demographic is specifically limited to the city of Boston. But we are always glad to make referrals for folks to other programs that deal in a broader demographic and geographic. And hopefully at the tail end, if anyone has any sort of generic finance questions, we will be glad to answer those also. The mission statement of the program is creating employment opportunities through providing small business loans. In the last 20 years, we've done, and this is actually going to change this, it's higher by now, 20 million in small business loans, to probably about $100 million in collaborations with the banking community. This is really key to what we do. Whenever possible, we try to bring together other lenders to facilitate making a project happen. And especially if we can create the introduction to a bank, and we provide subordinated debt that allows the bank to come to the table. And that way it establishes the business in a commercial borrowing relationship with the bank that they can then go forward and expand on. We've had a lot of success with job creation in the neighborhoods of Boston, and created and retained at least over 3,500 Boston jobs. Next slide, please. The BLDC has always had a strong commitment to diversity. As you can see, we have a very diverse board of trustees, 75% of them women and members of minority groups, 63% specifically of minority groups. Hopefully that informs the board's decisions in a broad sense. And in fact, a majority of our borrowers, 63%, are women, minority, and immigrant-owned businesses, plus there's a loan to a co-op. Next slide, please. Excuse me, when the federal government came out with the EDA CARES, with the CARES plan through the federal agency, the EDA, we applied for and received a grant of funds just to give an idea of that commitment that we do have to traditionally disinvested communities. Of those monies, which we were able to lend all of it out in time, there was a window of lending time. 80% of those dollars, it says loans here, but specifically of the dollars, 80% went to BIPOC-owned businesses. And what that will also create or retain 97 jobs. Although our mission statement is the job creation portion, we're very proud of the fact that we were able to accomplish this. Next slide, please. This is just an overview of what we require with a job, with a loan application. As you can see, we're asking for the same information that you would give a bank when you're requesting a loan. Our underwriting is not dissimilar to a bank's underwriting. However, we do understand that our mission is different than a bank's, and we look for ways that we're able to say yes, where there has been some stumbling block that doesn't allow the bank to be at the table. We're more comfortable with less in the way of physical collateral or equity on the balance sheet, cash on the balance sheet of a small business owner than traditional lenders. We'll work more with startups. We'll work even more comfortable working with projections to be able to repay the loan. And also one-time events that may have been a setback, that where you go to the bank and they'll say, well, show us 3 years back to profitability and then we can lend you the money. Where if we see a glide path to profitability, we can come to the table. Next slide, please. This is just because we're a City of Boston program. We inserted this a while ago because we have people who aren't quite sure if they're in the City of Boston or not. So this is Boston. This is the areas that we can lend in. We have people who call us and say, oh, yes, I'm in Boston. I'm here in Dedham. We've also had people who say, gee, I wish East Boston was part of Boston. So we decided to get very specific and put this map up. That's Boston and its neighborhoods. Next slide, please. I'd like to hand it over now to Gisela Soriano, and she's going to tell us a little more about our program.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you virtually. Now I have the pleasure of telling you a little bit about our borrowers, those that have received loans for their businesses from the BLDC. So here on the left, we have Cilantro Latin Kitchen, which is soon to open in Roxbury, specifically Roxbury Crossing. This is the couple that you see here, the couple's fourth restaurant that they will be opening in Boston. So we're very excited to have lent to them to make the opening of this restaurant, this new restaurant, possible. We also have Marvelous Cuts here on the right. Excellent team. The owner and borrower of the loan, he's an award-winning barber. And this is his first location in Boston that he opened, that we helped fund. His first shop is in Brockton and still remains there. And so he's doing very well. managing both shops in Brockton and recently now in Boston. Could I have the next slide, please? To dig a little bit deeper into our borrower profiles, here we have Sarah Shaughnessy. The BLDC lent to her business, a hair salon in South Boston during the pandemic. The funds were extremely helpful that she was able to maintain her employees employed at her salon, and also was able to be profitable enough to actually repay us the loan earlier than when it was actually due. Could I have the next slide, please? And here we have another borrower. This is Tracy Skelly, who will soon open the first baby cafe in Boston. Her business will provide prepared foods, pureed, small bites for very little ones, up to perhaps the age of 5 or 6. And with this loan that we provided to her, we were able to make it possible for her to open her shop in JP, which it's actually soon to open, perhaps in about a week. Next slide, please. And I'll bring this back to Bill to just remind folks how to contact us and how they can get more information about our loan program.
Thanks, Gisela. Hopefully that gives folks a decent overview of who and what we are, and the type of financing we provide, and a little self-promotion and a couple of those quotes from business owners that we were really proud when they got in touch with us. So we decided to share them with folks. There's our contact information. Please get in touch with us. As I mentioned earlier on, if you're not in the city of Boston, it's okay to reach out to us. We can aim you in the right direction. There's a large network of programs out there to work with small businesses, and we're very tied into all of that network. So we look forward to hearing from you and hearing the rest of today's presentation. Thank you, and back to you, Robert. And Robert, you're muted.
Thank you. Let's see. All right. Thank you very much. And next slide, please. Next slide. So I'm going to present a little overview of the procurement opportunities with the BPDA. One of the things that the agency does that we're proud of is we have a 24-month buying plan that allows prospective vendors to go onto our website and see if there are potential opportunities coming up that your business may be qualified for. So, that's a great thing. We feel that that's something where we're providing a greater level of transparency. Folks are able to look into the process and see when there's actually an opportunity that they can pursue. And this is something that's worth checking on a regular basis because the buying plan is updated quarterly. So what types of opportunities are available through the buying plan? You would see, as this notes, if you're in the building trades, architecture, engineering, environmental engineering and testing, IT, grounds maintenance, buildings operations and maintenance, and all of these areas, there will be future opportunities for you to do business with the BPDA. Next slide. So this slide essentially breaks up the next 24 months of spending, or of our spend. So you can see it's sorted between the 4 different categories. Let's see, the public works construction would account for approximately $11 million. There's approximately 2.8 in building/vertical construction. We expect to procure $3.8 million worth of design services and approximately $5 million in other goods and services. So the link at the top of this slide is where you'd go to see our buying plan. Next slide, please. Oops. All right. So is that right? Yeah, so that's something happened with this slide because I'm seeing a Google slide in the background. All right, thank you. So some suggestions for potential vendors if you're interested in doing business with the BPDA. The first thing would be to sign up for our mailing list and the link there. So you'd be notified of RFPs, RFQs, and bid opportunities. The next thing would be to visit the BPDA's buying plan to see more of the opportunities, and also go to our procurement page and reach out to our procurement office for additional information. Also, if you've gotten to the point where you're actually pursuing an opportunity, some advice that we want to offer would be, first of all, review all documents in their entirety, pay attention to the form for bidder qualifications, and at the risk of just stating the obvious, don't wait until the last minute to submit an application. It's get a start on it. When questions come up, reach out to us. It'll make the process that much easier for you. And also, you can't submit anything late. If you haven't dealt with a public procurement before, or public agency, if we have a 12 o'clock deadline, 12 o'clock means 12 o'clock. So if you submit it at 12:01, even if you spent last month working on it, we can't by law actually consider that. And just putting that out there. And lastly, if you've submitted an application and you haven't been successful, reach back out to us and request a bidder's debrief, and we'll provide you with feedback on how you can improve your application going forward. Next slide. And now my colleague Laura Melly will be walking you through some procurement opportunities, specific procurement opportunities.
Thanks very much. Once again, I'm Laura Melly, and I am one of the several members of the real estate department who are here today, who you'll be hearing from. As Robert mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, we have a ton of opportunities available. We are always looking for great partners. Those opportunities fall into several different categories. You can see here the different teams within the real estate department, which essentially describe the journey of our property. Our portfolio is quite large. It consists of about 13 million square feet, and we need to care for it day to day through our operations team. We also need to make large investments, particularly in our maritime infrastructure, through our capital construction team. As Robert mentioned, we then try to dispose of this property, partner with the community and developers to sort of get it back into the life of the community, at which point we also negotiate fiscally responsible leases. And then I myself am part of the administration team supporting all of the work of those other teams. So to highlight a few very real, very tangible opportunities, some of which are available as we speak. Could you jump to the next slide? I'm sorry, could you actually go back 2 slides? I think maybe we skipped over one. Perfect. So these are some of the opportunities that we wanted to highlight in the sort of goods and services realm before we get into capital construction and development. We're looking for everything from maintenance of our HVAC systems, citywide electrical repair and maintenance, which is much sexier than it might sound. For example, our electricians actually provide a lot of support for public art installations and a lot of other really cool opportunities. And that invitation for bid is actually live right now today on our procurement portal. In the near future, we'll also be looking for generator maintenance, standard fencing services, and arborist services. And I did also briefly mention our disposition and leasing teams. They periodically need consulting services, lease compliance audits, different types of engagements like that. And we also, of course, have emergencies come up sometimes, so it's great if we know who to call. So for all those reasons, we would love to get in touch with folks who align with these opportunities. And with that, you can skip ahead 2 slides. We'll move from goods and services into capital construction, and I'll turn it over to my colleague Dolores.
Okay, great, Laura. Just want to walk you through here some of the projects that we've done in the past, and let you know that we are, continuing. This is a little historical background, but we're continuing on with very similar projects, picking up, improving our properties, maintaining our properties. As you have heard a little bit about, the agency owns 2 very large properties in the city. One is actually 200 acres, the other is around 100 acres. And you're probably wondering, well, where the heck, how could that be? Because that's a lot of property. So think of the Marine Park, once called the Marine Industrial Park, now the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park. and the other is a portion of in Charlestown, the Charlestown Navy Yard. So the projects on the left, and all three projects here are actually in the Marine Park. So the center project and the one on the left, you may know if you've taken a cruise ship out of Boston. You may have parked in that parking garage, and you may have used the building in the center photo to board the cruise ship. And then on the right-hand side, closer to the airport is this picture, like across the main shipping channel for Boston Harbor. So we have to maintain waterfront, we have to maintain roads and structures. So that's the sum total of the content in this slide, and we'll move on to the next one, please. Okay, and just to give you a little further idea, we on buildings, perhaps the three photos on the right, owned by the city, they're owned by the agency, and actually in downtown is the China Trade Center. The center picture is a building we're actually demolishing because it's an old power plant in the Charlestown Navy Yard that happen to contain a lot of hazardous materials. So that building is being deconstructed and will become a development site. And then another building in the Marine Park is 12 Channel Street that we own and operate, so that and continue to improve. Rather large building. This generally the list on the left are the projects we currently have underway. So just to give you, you might glance if you're a design team or construction group, to give you an idea of the type of work currently ongoing. So just give you a second there, but we'll move on to the next slide. Thank you. All righty. So what's coming up? Yeah. What we'll have coming up is the photo on the left, for instance, is a site that the BPDA, the agency, owns, happens to be Long Wharf in the Central Wharf District downtown. As you can see, Long Wharf is suffering from, potential to actually that seawall could cave in. So that will be a construction contract coming up. We're bringing the designers on board now. We have to go even further with Long Wharf. You'll see the first project listed, flood resilience and feasibility planning. Yeah, together with our waterfront planning group, we're going to be doing a district scale plan for that area, so that we can prevent further flooding of structures on that particular wharf and inland from it. So that design work is currently out there for solicitation of design teams, and from that procurement, we'll go a step further next year to break the planning work into construction projects. I want to say that here that the very same activities are going to be happening for the Marine Park too. So designers are being solicited, procured right now, design services, and those are open. That's an open solicitation, as well as Long Wharf for design right now. And then we'll be followed by further design next year, and then the construction of projects that result from those planning efforts. We have building envelope repairs that'll take place at the China Trade Center building, the historic building shown in the previous slide. And a broad waterfront inspection. We're seeking applicants to perform that work now. And then quite a list of construction projects you can see here are going to be coming down the pike. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Because here's how you can discover, the real-time list. Go to our website, bostonplans.org, the BPDA's agency website, and look down there at the easiest way, the lower right-hand corner, active RFPs, RFQs, and bids. When you click there, you'll go right into the procurement portal, which will, have all these potential opportunities listed. So then, you choose one. You'll be asked to submit your name and email address, company name, and yep, Robert's drop that into the chat now, and you'll be off and running. You can really see there'll be an RFP, RFQ, IFB, all our code names for potential opportunities to download, where you can get more information and decide if a project is right for you to take on. And I think that's all I have for you, but be back for questions later. Next.
Thanks, Dolores. And now it's Jonathan Short who'll be telling you how to pursue real estate opportunities on the disposition side with the agency.
Thank you, Robert. Hello, everyone. As you just heard, my name is Jonathan Short, a Senior Real Estate Development Officer with the BPDA. And I'm happy to have the privilege to speak with you all to provide a little bit of insight into the work that I do, and have the opportunity to try to entice you to join into the pipeline to submit some proposals on some of the BPDA's properties. Next slide, please. So I'll start off this presentation just letting you all know about the BPDA's real estate portfolio. So the agency owns 319 parcels of land, totaling over 13 million square feet of land. The land consists of 7 million square feet of ground lease land. 2.4 million square feet of that land is developable, which is also the land that I mostly do the majority of my work on. 7 million square feet of that land is ground lease, 41 acres of public open space, 27.5 acres of parking, including public lots, and 17,000 square feet of community gardens. Next slide, please. So now I want to provide you all with a little bit of insight as to how we do our selling and leasing of our property. So the BPDA follows a disposition process that consists of 7 steps in total. Those 7 steps begin with our due diligence and strategic planning of the development of our parcels, which consists of working with our neighborhood planners and legal team to determine which disposition process that the parcel should go through, a collection of all legal documentation, and to make a determination as to what structures, if any, can be built on a parcel of land. After that phase, we move into our community engagement phase, in which the community is given the opportunity to be placed into the driver's seat for making the request for what should be built on a parcel of land. This phase typically falls into 3 meetings consisting of initial requests for community ideas for what can be developed, a recap of those ideas, and creating a plan of action. And then next is the discussion on the drafting of the request for proposal and application, which basically outlines the appropriate uses and design guidelines for the development of the parcel at issue. The third phase is the release of that request for proposal or application after we get approval from the BPDA board. And after that RFP is released to the public, everyone has the right to submit a proposal for development for the development of the land. And those RFPs and applications are typically open for 3 months to allow the community to submit their proposals. Now, I wanted to really focus on those 3 phases because I always like to tell individuals, if you are kind of interested in participating in the development of this land, you should come and participate. Come take a look at those, attend some of those community meetings to actually hear what the community is saying for the development of that land, so you can start building in some ideas as to what that development structure could potentially look like. And it would give you a really good basis of understanding as to what we're actually going to be looking for. Now, I will say that once that RFP is released, when I say it's open to the public, I am very serious. Anyone can submit a proposal for the development of these parcels. And when all you have to do is Dolores listed, showed you all that procurement page. That is where that RFP will be listed as well. And you can, after you have submitted your email address, and can be put onto that procurement or the proponents list, you can attend our pre-meeting that we typically have after the RFP has been released, which allows all the developers to get together and hear about what's actually going to be requested in that RFP. I always let people know that's a great opportunity for you to be able to speak to other developers and to see if there's any type of partnership that can be created on that front as well. So even if you are a small developer just getting into the field, that's a really great opportunity to get some additional insight or some assistance from other developers that would like to develop on this, participate in this RFP altogether. Now, lastly here, moving into that next step, like there is an evaluation of the proposals with the community feedback. So typically, once we have those proposals in after that 3-month period, everyone that submitted that proposal has to go back out to the community, and the community gets an opportunity to provide community some feedback on their thoughts and opinions on the proposals that were received, and actually be able to make a determination as to which proposal should be able to move forward into the tentative designation phase of this development process. And that's just one of the additional steps the BPDA takes to ensure that the community is really leading the way for the development on BPDA's parcels. I'll say after that phase, we start getting into Article 80, which goes into a lot more detail on that front, but those are the initial steps just to get into that process. And I will say that overall, that you can always reach out to Rebecca Hansen, who is the director of the department, or myself, to actually get a little more insight on these initial steps, and just to get a little bit more assistance as to the development of those proposals. We are always willing to hold hands as we move forward through this process to ensure that everyone has a fair shake on the development of these BPDA parcels. Next slide, please. So here is just a basic outlook of the parcels that the BPDA currently owns. So as you've also seen in Dolores' section, that we own a lot of parcels over in the Raymond Flynn Marine Park and the Charlestown Navy Yard. But I will say that the majority of the parcels that the BPDA owns currently exist over in the Roxbury neighborhood. And a lot of those parcels are infill parcels. So when I say infill, we're talking about the development of, single family homes, duplexes, apartment buildings, and things along those lines. So I would say that the parcels we own have a wide range. So if you wanted something a little bit smaller, like there's opportunities for that. If you wanted something, want to participate in a larger development, there's also opportunities for that as well. And I will also say that, especially around that Roxbury area, inside of the planned Nubian Square area, that's where you will see a lot of upcoming developments for a lot of business development as well in those areas for that we are trying to put out which we have RFPs out for at this particular point in time. And this is where you'll also see the conclusions as we move forward through the development for P3, which is going through that final phase for the selection of which proponent that we want to move forward with. Next slide, please. So this is here. I just want to, I think I've touched on this a little bit already, but, just wanted to give you all just the ideas as to who responds to the RFPs. These are like the typical list that we typically have: developers, private equity lenders, architects, engineers, the list goes on. If you're inside of the real estate field, those are the people that we typically get proposals from. But everyone has that opportunity. So if you are in a butter to one of the BPDA's parcels and you are interested in potentially developing that parcel yourself, like you can submit a proposal to be able to do that work. If you are, part of a community development corporation or a neighborhood association that wants to ensure that land stays with community ownership, you can definitely submit that proposal. And we are always open to, a thorough review of all proposals that come in. And the real guide that comes in on that point is ensure that you are just following those steps that are laid out inside that RFP, which is really a good step-by-step guideline as to how to draft that proposal. And all that will be taken into equal consideration for these developments. So everyone has an opportunity to participate. Next slide, please. So what I wanted to do here on this slide is just to give a layout of some of the upcoming RFPs that are going to be released in the upcoming months. So I'll start off with the 7th through 9 Westminster Terrace, which is in Roxbury. And the community has put in a request for the development of affordable home ownership on these two parcels. So this RFP will be released around the beginning of October. You'll be able to find that on the procurement website, and you'll be able to get a little bit more of insight at that pre-RFP conference to have a further discussion as to what that parcel looks like and what the overarching ideas that we were able to receive from the community have been. And it'll also be a great opportunity for you to be able to speak to other developers at that meeting as well. So that's the one that's coming up really soon there. Also coming down the line, we have 29 through 21 Fernborough Street. This property is also in Roxbury, inside of, well, it's not in Roxbury, excuse me, it's actually in Dorchester, right along that border between Dorchester and Roxbury. It is right off the edge of the Garrison, of the Grove Hall commercial district. This parcel is going to be requesting the development of several affordable home ownership units on this land. And there was a lot of support from the community and also from Councilor Worrell for the development of these 5 parcels as well. So this RFP is going to be released closer to the end of October, beginning of November on this front, but this will also be like a really great opportunity for some infill housing developments in the Roxbury neighborhood. And then lastly, we have 626 Warren Street, which received a lot of requests from the community for the development of mixed use retail and affordable housing opportunities along Warren Street. This parcel is really directly in the Grove Hall Commercial District, right very close to Warren Street and Blue Hill Avenue, right from the basically like a block away from the Grove Hall Mecca shopping district. Now, I will say on this parcel, it's currently on only one parcel. We are taking a look at potentially acquiring 2 of the abutters parcels there. So I don't have like the exact number of square footage that comes in play there, but this would be a really great opportunity for the development of commercial and residential development in the Roxbury neighborhood. And we do expect that this RFP will be released closer to the mid of November at this point in time. Next slide, please. So again, as everything has already been was laid out by Dolores, how you can be connected to some additional development teams. If you are an up and coming developer, just in a butter, wanted just to get a little more insight in on how this development process would typically go, is that after you have submitted your your email address to be a plan holder of the RFP. You can click on that plan holder list on the procurement page and be able to see every single developer that has also pulled that RFP. So you have a list of individuals to reach out to and begin those discussions to see if any partnerships can be developed. So you can definitely play a role in the processes for the development of these parcels overall. I will always tell people, you can always reach out to me if this is like your first time doing development or you just want a little bit more insight. You can always reach out to me. Email is always best at jonathan.short@boston.gov. And I'm always happy to provide a little bit more insight and assistance as you move forward through this process. Next slide. That's all for me. Thanks.
Thank you, Jonathan. And now up to next is Joseph Lee, who will be telling you about employment opportunities with the BPDA.
Thank you, Robert. As you can see, it says my curb, but my name is Joseph Lee. I'm the Assistant Director for Talent Acquisition and Payroll. So I just wanted to talk about some of the employment opportunities we have here that you can join our agency. Next slide, please. So the BPDA, as you can see here by my colleagues, we are looking to not only hire the best and brightest, we are also looking to hire all walks of creed and color to match the diverse area that we live in. Boston is a very diverse area, and we want to make sure our workforce and members of staff reflect that. Just as we are looking for developers and suppliers of all creed, color, and race, we are also looking to do the same with our employment groups and who we bring in on staff. So here are some key areas that we have open positions in. OWD, which is our Office of Workforce Development, our planning group, our development review group, budget and finance, real estate. These are just a few of the key business areas. And some of the positions that we have highlighted at the moment are Planner 2, Senior Planner 1 and 2, Project Manager and Development Review, a Grants Manager within the OWD team, a Procurement Specialist in the Finance team, and a Project Engineer in the Real Estate team. As mentioned before, this is just a sampling. If you would like to see the full scope of jobs we have open, I encourage you to visit our website, bostonplans.org. And at the top of the banner, there is a button that says Career Opportunities for you to look at. And we do, just a keynote, we do follow the Boston residency rule. So you can refer back to the image that Bill had earlier in the slide that labels what is Boston. We often hear is Somerville, is Dedham, is Cambridge. Unfortunately, even though they are just a hop, skip, and away, they are not considered Boston. So Boston residency is a requirement to join the agency, and hope to see a few new resumes and faces join from this conference call. But that is all I have. So next slide, and hand it back over to Robert.
All right, thank you very much, Joseph. So let's see, next slide, please. So these are some of the resources that are available, and we had mentioned them several times during the presentation, and they've also been posted in the chat. Next slide, please. So for everyone who's here, if you want to reach out to us, the team, here's our contact information, our email addresses. Feel free to reach out and contact us with specific questions regarding either the procurement, the real estate development, capital construction, or on the HR side, or if you're a Boston-based business and you want to reach out to Bill or Gisela. Next slide. And that would conclude our presentation. So if there are any questions, please let us know.
All right, thank you so much. So at this time, I'd encourage that everyone, if you have a question, please use the raise hand function, and then you will be called upon. You can ask your question directly. We prefer that just in terms of content, but if necessary, go ahead and use the Q&A box. I know oftentimes some people are perhaps calling in from the or watching this from the airport or are traveling. So we completely understand that. But now is the time to ask your questions should you have any. I saw a hand go up, but then it went back down. So
That was me. That was me. My apologies.
all right, well, one question that I have is, who are these opportunities for your vendors? Are they specifically Greater Boston? Is it relative to anyone in New England, anyone that is associated with our council?
Oh, it's anyone who's associated with the organization. So even though these opportunities are occurring, the properties are based in Boston and the work's being done here. If you're a contractor who lives outside of the city, it's not bound by the same kind of residency requirements that have been described. We're looking, when we've talked about things in the past, we've realized that the agency has a regional pool of vendors that it pulls from. So it's looking not only, you could say, the greater Boston area through 128, maybe going up through New Hampshire and Rhode Island. So it's any firm that's competent, delivers the services, reach out to us.
Perfect. That's super helpful.
Could I make a quick comment? Where Robert had said about residency isn't required. I probably should a little more specificity to our program also. Sometimes folks think that it's to work with our small business fund, they have to be a resident of the city of Boston. That's not the case. The business itself has to have a physical presence in the city of Boston with either ownership or long-term lease of an appropriately zoned space for that business, but the business owner doesn't have to live in the city. Just to specify. Thank you.
We do have one question that came in through the Q&A box, so I'll just go ahead and read that. What would be the best way to engage with your team and developers to support marketing, communications, and community engagement opportunities? And then there's an additional just note about this particular organization.
So the first thing that's coming to mind would be reach out to, you could reach out to me to just, I'd be interested in learning more about your firm and seeing exactly where there's an opportunity to partner. So in terms of the stuff regarding community engagement, it feels like that may be drifting over a little bit towards the stuff that Jonathan may do. But yeah, I'd say the first thing is reach out to us and we'll have a conversation. So yeah, robert.springer@boston.gov. And yeah, I look forward to speaking with you.
And all contact information will be shared via the presentation that will come out later on today. So last call for questions. If we have none, then we can wrap it up and everyone will get a few minutes back in their day. But here's your chance. All right, well, with that, I'd like to say thank you to all of our panelists, Robert Springer, Bill Nickerson, Joseph Lee, Laura Melli, Gisela Soriano, Jonathan Shore, Dolores Dominguez-Fazio. Sorry, I'm like reading clockwise. This is a very helpful overview of all of the resources that BPDA offers, and I will be sharing the presentation today, as well as the recorded video on our YouTube page. Thank you very much again, and have a great day.